Welcome back. It's Monday. It's time for Worst of the Week. And a lot of times I do things that just aren't right to Doc. I'll even admit that Hawkgirl #1 from Jadzia Axlerod goes beyond cruel and unusual. It's mostly just cruel, Doc.
It really was. This was very not good of a comic book. Like about as far as you could get from good of a comic book.
It's definitely one of the worst comic books I've read in quite some time. The writer, Jadzia Axlerod, you say, wait, Jadzia doesn't sound like a human name. Well, that's because it's not really a human name. Jadzia Axlerod is a transgender creator. Jadzia obviously is one of the Trill on Star Trek. And you know what that means, right, Doc?
No, actually, I don't have a goddamn clue.
All right, so the Trill are moved around from body to body and will assume different genders over their lifetime. And I imagine that's what drove Jadzia Axlerod to choose the name Jadzia.
Oh, well, that...
Wait, hold on. There's more, Doc, because I don't think they thought this all the way through, because the Trill is also a parasite and kills the host.
Yeah, that tracks. That completely tracks.
I don't think they thought that one totally through, but whatever. The name's Jadzia Axlerod, not really a comic book writer. Did something called Galaxy, which I guess was a YA graphic novel. After reading this, I would never let this person have access to my children. And I believe they're writing like the Pride history of DC Comics or something of that nature. And the worst thing about this comic book, Doc, in my opinion, is if you come here looking for a Hawkgirl story, maybe the classic Hawkgirl, Shiara, or maybe even the newer version, Kendra Saunders, who the name is in this book, you will actually learn nothing about Hawkgirl, but you will learn everything you want to know about Jadzia Axlerod, because it's all self-inserts and there's nothing actually, authentic about the character. That's the way I came away from it.
Yeah, this was very, very paint by numbers in statistically impossible lesbians, and just weird validation of characters nobody came here to read.
Well, yeah, I think it's a validation of the writer. That's the worst part. And I've got a video coming up, I believe tomorrow, where I'm going to go more in depth on that. I've already recorded it, but I'm running out of room to put it out there, and this one has to go out on Monday. Let's get into this comic book. We will not talk about the art because the art is absolutely fine. It actually looks much better than it should for a writing of this quality. But we don't have time for the art because the comic book is so bad. It opens up and there's a big action scene. Apparently Hawkgirl has joined up with the Justice League, even though Superman is talking about the Justice League are disbanded. And everyone is worried about Hawkgirl. They're not worried about all these villains and these robots that are trying to take over the city. They're worried about old Kendra Saunders because she just moved to Metropolis and she's all alone and she's not going to be able to take it. And they remind her of all the teams she's been on, whether it be the Justice League, the Justice Society, the Blackhawks, the Birds of Totality. They don't really mention Carter Hall Hawkman at this point, which seems kind of weird considering that's kind of the purpose of the character. But she says she's never lonely, even though there's a close-up of her balled up like a child next to a couch. Apparently, we learn later because her and Carter broke up, even though that makes no sense for the characters themselves.
I feel like there's the writer was trying to make some point here about hiding how sad you really are, even from people that know you, but did a really, really poor job of it.
Man, it just kind of distracts you from the actual action that's going on in the comic book, which wasn't all that enthralling anyway, but it could have been enjoyable because the art was pretty decent if it wasn't for all those goddamn speech bubbles.
The action here it was like, well, it is a superhero comic, so I guess we should put in a fight scene. Now, nobody's going to take it seriously. We're not even taking it seriously. And nobody in the scene actually seems to give a shit. But yeah, sure.
It also opens up before this. It's like it's supposed to be a fairy tale about a fox that's trapped in an interdimensional thing, and it gave a person a necklace, and then there was whatever. It was just bad. It was bad writing all around. You get into the really weird stuff after the opening action scene, which isn't very good, and then the comic book just goes into, I don't even know what territory this is. It turns out that Kendra has a lunch date with a college friend who apparently was a bit of a church mouse back in the day, and she's let her mental illness haircut fly, and now she wears like ties and she's all tatted up. And wouldn't you know it, she's a lesbian, but she also might be non-binary or is trans. She's just not sure yet. And they're having a nice conversation because this is really key to the character of Kendra. And she always looked up to Kendra because she spoke her mind. And then you get this weird flashback of Kendra with their head shaved as she was in a Black Lives Matter protest, apparently, because they have these in this universe as well. I don't even know what the fuck's happening. It was just weird.
This was like First World Problems, the comic book. Okay, sure. Why the fuck not? She's out there screaming about how she hates cops. I mean, look, I guess we've had times where Hawkgirl did hate cops, but she is a cop. Yeah, great job on that, I guess. But
so
whatever.
It continues on, Doc. We're not done yet because there's some flirting that goes on, and she talks about her relation with Carter. And she says, he found me when I was at my lowest, and he taught me how to fly. But that's over with, and you get the little shot where she's on the ground in the fetal position like a child again next to the couch. But it's done now, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because the reincarnation aspect of the characters of Hawkman and Hawkgirl is that when they're reincarnated, they have this overwhelming feeling to go find the other one because they're not whole yet. And every time they're reincarnated, they always find each other again, and they fall in love, only to tragically lose one or the other again and then be reincarnated and rediscover themselves and fall in love again. So that doesn't really make sense for the character, but of course she's not straight anymore, and she certainly doesn't like Carter Hall. She's actually perhaps a lesbian. Maybe she's not sure yet because there is some flirting. And she's like, I'm your type. And she's like, with those arms? Absolutely, girl. Look at those guns that you got on you. And she's wearing like her wings on her back, like, you know, a tank top, like bra thing, which made no sense. And she's really flattered, but they might go on a date. We're just not sure yet, Doc.
Honestly, I was waiting for the writer here to try to claim that, you know, Carter Hall groomed her or something. And I wouldn't put it past them to eventually come to that realization, because the idea of
it almost felt like Jeff Johns actually did that when he introduced Kendra Saunders, because he did not get the characters either.
It seems like that would be the type of story that a writer like this would do whenever tackling the subject of kind of inevitable, destined love between two characters that have repeated the same cycle for thousands and thousands of years. That seems like the exact approach that they take, to be like, oh yeah, that whole inevitable attraction to each other, and
they're not
tragedy.
Really soulmates, Doc.
They're not really soulmates. She will never be complete until she's, I guess, fucking a chick, whatever. Because the idea of that you might have a destiny is racist or something from this lady.
It's something, it's Doc. And then we get to like the last scene. It turns out this lady is a fox baby that put a necklace on a girl. She's doing some stuff. She's doing some experiments. I don't know what's happening, but you know, it's got something to do with nth metal. Obviously, that's what the wings are made of. And it ends up sucking Hawkgirl out of her house or whatever into the apartment of Galaxy, who's an original character that was created for an YA graphic novel written by Jadzia Axlerod. And earlier we did see Galaxy, who appears to be a body positive lesbian alien hero. Maybe that's the first one. I'm not really sure. Of course, she saved Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl didn't save the day. It was actually Galaxy, and she's sucked into Galaxy's apartment as she's making out with her plus-sized girlfriend, I guess.
As I said, statistically impossible lesbians, but sure, why the hell not? At no point here does it seem like Hawkgirl's going to be the hero of her own story. Earlier in the issue, whenever Galaxy first showed up, she just somehow beats all of the alien gas monster things, fixes Kendra's problem with her wings that are somehow not
they short-circuited. I don't even know what that one was about. I didn't get that moment, but it happened.
Look, Jadzia Axlerod and Galaxy are the DC equivalent of Steve Orlando and Somnus, where it's his original self-insert character that is jammed in there, and god damn it, they're gonna make that character go over no matter what. They will end up being the actual hero of the book, the same way that John Kent's pink kryptonite haired boyfriend is the hero
Jay
of
Nakamura.
That book. Yeah, Jay Nakamura, and the way that Bernard was the actual hero of that terrible Robin series. And all the other characters where the title character is never the fucking hero of their own goddamn book, because whatever self-insert, weird fetishized version of a character that they're going to shove in there will actually be the hero. And that's what it is entirely predictable at this point. But we're going to get a bunch of lessons on body positivity, trans-speciesal relationships. Yeah, you're going to get into gender identity, and Kendra's randomly shoved in there former roommate is going to become a dude that she's actually in love with.
Wow, it's better than Carter Hall, because that shit was gross, dude. I don't even know what DC Comics were thinking running with that character for the last 80 years. Whatever, man. This thing is it's a rough read, Doc. It's not very good, and it's pretty predictable what's going to happen. No one's going to buy this because no one had heard of Jadzia Axlerod, and quite frankly, Hawkgirl is a secondary character to Hawkman, and he can't even hold up his own series for the most part. And the people that did are going to mock it and make fun of it, and there's going to be 5 people who are like, oh, this is the greatest comic book in the world, and everyone's going to know that it's bullshit, and it'll die a slow and painful death. We'll likely get another series or 2 from Jadzia Axlerod at DC, as they try to make Jadzia Axlerod a thing as far as a comic book writer, and it'll fail because they can't write comic books. This isn't even a Hawkgirl comic. They should have just called it Galaxy. With a little bit of Hawkgirl, maybe.
Yeah, Galaxy featuring Hawkgirl. Look, as I said earlier, this is a paint-by-numbers comic, and she added a bunch of nonsensical attempts at connecting it to fairy tales and destiny, and had to jam a bunch of gender and sexual ideology in there too to try to distract from the fact that this plot is fucking boring and stupid and not very good, and it's been done a million times before.
And it's not even a Hawkgirl book. So are you recommending this one, Doc? I'm going to abstain and say, you know what? I'm not going to recommend Hawkgirl #1, and I don't believe that the viewers will enjoy it sticking around for the ride for the whole series.
I will say that it's going to take all of my willpower here to say, just don't buy this book, because if I didn't use the willpower, I'd be saying a lot worse shit that would probably get you demonetized.
It could be argued that this is the worst comic book DC has put out in the modern era. There's been a lot of really bad stuff lately. You think about T. Franklin, basically everything she's written. But there is another comic book that stands out that's almost as bad as this one, or maybe it is as bad as this one. Check out BATGIRL #50, in our review of that one. We sat down and talked about it. And what do you think? Was this worse than Hawkgirl #1? It's also linked in the video description.